My name is Natali Brindo. I work for Stop Hunger. I'm based in Paris, and I have been working for Stop Hunger for the last 3.5 years, and I'm in charge of supporting our activities across Europe. Actually, Stop Hunger was created 26 years ago in the United States, following an action led by employees that were working in Sodexo restaurants in the education segment in Boston. And these employees were seeing kids that were really relying on the meal they were getting in the school canteen. And they started wondering what happened during the summer holidays when those kids did not have that steady, healthy meal. And they got together and they reached out to a client, the school director, and they reached out to their suppliers, and they talked to other parents to get funds. And they started giving their time to serve meals during the summer holidays as volunteers. And at the time, the local communication team wrote the story and thought it was amazing. And the director of the communication team was also based in Boston. And so he decided to give some time and money to the volunteers to help them continue to carry out this action. And he also went to Michel Landel, who was the boss of the United States at the time for Sodexo, and said, hey, do you want to give a hand? Do you want to help? And Michel thought it was an amazing idea, and he, with Steve Brady, decided to create the Stop Hunger Foundation. And so that's how it started 26 years ago in 1996.
Stop Hunger is a story born in 1996 in Boston, USA. It's a story of women, men, and the desire to create positive change. A group of Sodexo employees sharing the same conviction. No child should have to spend the day on an empty stomach during holidays, when schools are closed and meals no longer available. Their pioneering spirit and ability to rally others led to a movement to help the most vulnerable, establishing the heart of the Stop Hunger philosophy. Stop Hunger is daring. Women and younger generations are the key to a world without hunger. By unleashing the potential of women in need and supporting younger generations to reveal their talents, Stop Hunger commits to changing lives, as well as those of their families and communities. Stop Hunger is a movement, inspired and nurtured every day by Sodexo's people. Because hunger is not an option. Because every step counts. Stop Hunger. Join the movement.
When you're looking at the hunger situation around the world, 820 million people suffering from hunger in a lot of different countries, even very wealthy countries, we had to do something. And last year alone, we supported over 300 different NGOs in 60 different countries, bringing support either through food aid or beyond food aid to those charities, thanks to the ecosystem of the company and through the support our volunteers bring to all of those communities in need. To be honest, food banks need funds, but they also need volunteers to make it work. And just last year, we had over 14,300 volunteers who gave their time to support those communities in need, either with hands-on volunteering, so going to a food bank and giving a few hours of their time to help sort out food or donate food packages, but sometimes also through expertise, like experts in supply chain or in nutrition or in hygiene can be really useful for food banks and make a difference for them. And that's where companies like Sodexo can really have a value add for NGOs that don't always have the means to buy those services, but when they're given to them by experts for free on their volunteer time, it really impacts them positively, and it impacts the charity and it impacts the local community. Well, we have some large partners. So we have 5 really large partners like the World Food Programme, the Global Food Banking Network, FIBA, which is the European counterpart, Women in Africa, CARE. Those are our international partners with whom we've been working for quite a few years, and they're global. So when we need to reach an emergency situation in a country where Sodexo is not present, we're often going to work with one of them. But we also have this network of 300 NGOs, as you just mentioned, and that's NGOs that our teams in the different countries where they're present are going to identify as, NGOs that are acting in the fight against hunger or in the education of young generation and of women, helping those local communities make a difference. And when you look at all the sites, all the places where we have Sodexo sites, well, we do touch a lot of communities, and that way we're able to touch a lot of NGOs or charities that we work with. We don't choose just anyone. We do a due diligence process, and we ask our teams to do a due diligence process and make sure that the charity is trustworthy, it has a good reputation, it's reliable in terms of how they use the funds, and we follow up, right? If we're going to give them money or if we give them food, we work with them to make sure that they use the funds in the way they said they would, that we can trust them in the long run, and that the money is well used and goes to the right people, those who really need it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, food aid is important in natural disasters, as you mentioned. And we've seen what just happened to Turkey and Syria this past year, where the earthquake destroyed so many houses and put a lot of people out on the street. There we organized with the local Sodexo teams a campaign to try to help provide meals to those who needed it. And we also worked with local NGOs to find solutions to help those in need. And I know, for example, one of the actions carried out in Turkey was a fundraising campaign to collect funds to donate food cards for students that came from that earthquake area and didn't have the means to feed themselves properly. And if we didn't give them that access to those meal cards, they might have had to drop out of school and their studies, which would have been really a shame. So that's just one example of the campaign that was carried out in Turkey recently. Obviously, if you look at FY22, so in 2022, we supported quite a few different countries like Lebanon, Madagascar, Haiti, South Africa, Brazil, countries where there was either conflict or just this dramatical situation, natural disaster that meant that they needed that extra support. And I think last year we spent over 400,000 euros supporting those communities going through emergency situations. Well, I always like to use the parable. You can teach someone how to fish, or you can give them a fish. And giving the fish is that food aid that sometimes is really important and you need to do. But teaching someone how to fish so that they can become autonomous in the long run, right? So that it really makes a difference for them and their lives. You can move from saving a life to changing a life. And that's what we like to do. We will invest half of the funds that we collect in saving lives, but half of them we really dedicate to changing lives. And those will be programs to eradicate hunger in the long run through education, but also the protection of the environment, because a lot of the projects we support will be linked to agriculture. And if you do it wrong, you can actually destroy your resources for the future. So we really try to make sure that the projects we support teach the right sustainable methods of cultivating the earth, for example. But we also have some mentoring programs for young generations and for women. And we've been focusing on women empowerment for the last, I would say, 8 years now, really trying to make a difference for them and bringing them out of poverty in the long run. Why women? Well, because women are the first to suffer from hunger. Remember, I mentioned 820 million people suffering from hunger around the world today. Well, actually, 60% of those are women. So they're the first ones to suffer from hunger, but they're also the first ones to sacrifice themselves. If their family is hit by a situation of famine or hunger, they will make sure that the children and the husband eats first, and they will feed themselves afterwards. There are also in many countries the first ones to be pulled out of school at a young age, meaning that with less access to education, they have less opportunities to have a decent job afterwards. So those are a lot of different reasons already, just why they need that extra little hand there. We also know that in very low-income families, when the mother has the responsibility of managing the budget, the children have a 20% better chance of surviving and of being able to stay in school. Because when they earn a salary, they will make sure that they reinvest 90% of what they've earned into their children, whether it's the education, just clothing, access to health and medication if needed. So they really look after their children. So by helping the women, we actually help the children. So these are all reasons why we decided to focus on women. And just last year in 2022, we supported 44 different projects and initiatives around the world in 30 countries. And that has helped reach out to 23,000 women through mentoring, training, tools, giving them better chance of financial autonomy for the future. Well, we really partner with charities, right? We don't do it alone. We work with NGOs that are used to creating training programs, skill development programs, where they will give access to knowledge, but sometimes also tools, so that women can learn the skills they never learned in school at a younger age and have access to tools that will help them start a business or find work. So training new skills, mentoring, giving that helping hand through tools or access to a network, they all make a difference. Now, when we select a project and work with a charity, we do what we call a call for application. And we basically let charities know that we will be having some funds that we'll be distributing. And so they need to apply. We review the application with the country that we're going to be partnering with, the Sodexo teams in the country that we're going to be working with. And together we decide, which projects makes the most sense. Last year, we had a call for application and we selected 10 new projects in 9 different countries, and they're all being, started this year. And so when we sign them for 2 or 3 years. So we'll see in 3 years' time what the positive impact will have been. But that's just an example. And we have signed a contract with because in Bulgaria, because we really felt that was an interesting project and pushing and helping women move in the right direction of entrepreneurship. It's always easier to support an activity that's close to where you are based because you'll know the community, because you'll know the people, you'll know the need, you understand the local culture. trying to do this in a country where we have no teams would be really difficult, and it would be harder for us to make sure the funds were used well. Whereas here in Bulgaria, we're able to rely on the team, the Sodexo team locally, to support and meet with the NGO on a regular basis, share the employees' expertise through their volunteer time. And so it's more than just giving funds, right? It's actually really creating a partnership with a charity that can make a real difference for the local community. So we feel that, projects like the one in Bulgaria are much more likely to succeed than partnerships we might do in countries where Sodexo is not present. To be honest, men have a crucial role in helping women reach equality, gender equality, whether it's in companies, in school, in just everyday life in the communities. There are allies. If men are not there to support and to advocate for gender equality and for the same access to economical empowerment, then it's going to take many, many, many years for us to reach that, and maybe never, to be honest. So the progress in the community can only be made if men are there to support us and advocate for it. They can be there to encourage and help women kind of go past their fears of taking on entrepreneurship or more responsibilities. They can give the time by helping manage the family ecosystem. They can encourage, and they can fight for the rights of those women. They can also really give access to the knowledge they have, the network they have, to make a difference and really be that helping hand that women need. So without them, we can't make it happen. And with them, we can accelerate the process of gender equality for the benefit of our local communities as a whole. In many studies, we call them the gatekeepers to gender equality, opening the path for women to reach that access to work and access to a more economical empowerment. So they're key. They're very important. Without them, we're not going to go and do anything. It's something that we have now put on the strategic map. It wasn't on the strategic map until recently. We've just reintegrated it on the strategic map. But to be very honest, if you remember, I said that Stop Hunger started in the education segment in schools, where volunteers decided to give meals to children to ensure they were able to not be too concerned about being hungry, but more concentrate on learning their lessons. So it has been at the origin of Stop Hunger, and I think it's very important for us to put it back on the strategic map, because we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to succeed and to have access to education and employment. 2 more years in school will really make a difference in your ability to sustain yourself in the future. So giving everybody that chance at a young age is key. And it's as important and making sure that our women have equal access to the work environment.